Welcome back to the rest of the story. This video, along with the last 3 or 4, were all taken in the same, 12 to 16 hour time frame. This is the last video in that day that I took. It was a bit of a long day. I started out getting Ryan going on the VT. Then I went and raked fodder, baled fodder, came up short on the amount of fodder I ended up baling. Had to go back, rake up more corn stalks, which everybody knows I'm really not that crazy about doing, but when the situation calls for it, you really don't get much of a choice. And I end up baling about another 45 bales. And I have no video on hauling the bales in, by the way. Got done doing that and ran back to the farm at about 7 o'clock at night. Got the 46 fired up, warmed up. Went back down to my place because we had actually put the chisel plow away for the year. And the ground was just borderline where we could maybe give it a try at chisel plowing. And I was talking to my friend the whole time I was round baling. He called me a couple times because he was out trying to chisel plow. And he told me just as I got done baling that he was done. He ended up breaking his chisel plow in some way, shape, or form. He said it wasn't catastrophic, just a simple breakdown. But he said that he couldn't get any traction, and he was dropping the chisel plow on the ground, and it was just bringing him to a stop. Well, I got to say, when he told me that, I really wasn't sure if I wanted to go to the trouble, take the time to get everything switched over, and go out and try it. Excuse me. But I figured, what the heck? We haven't had any chisel plowing done at this point anyway, so I figured it was worth a try. If I could run, I was going to run. And luckily enough for me, I went out, and as you can see, the stalks are still standing. This field that I'm in, this ground that I've been doing this on, didn't get VT'd, and the stalks were still standing. I dropped the chisel plow in the ground, and it basically cut like butter. It didn't give me any issues at all. There really wasn't any frost in the ground where I was at all. I kind of think that the amount of residue and all that was there might have helped insulate the ground just a little bit, because I couldn't believe how easily I was able to chisel. I'm not bringing up chunks. I'm not cutting through frozen ground. It's just kind of like a cold fall day is really what the conditions felt like. And I really wish I could have I just didn't take the time to do it. I'll own up to that fact. I didn't take the time to set my other camera up and try to get some better angles and shots, because I think it's pretty obvious. I kind of YouTube took the back seat on priorities. Basically, I just wanted to get as much tillage done as I could. I ended up getting going about 9 o'clock at night, and I ended up quitting by about 4 in the morning. I ended up having to quit because it did start to get a little cold. I ended up getting just over, probably just over a third of the farm where I live done. And there's probably, it's probably closer to half. No. Yeah, I got over half of the ground at my place worked down. The reason I had to quit is because where the standing stocks I got the majority of that done. And I was heading straight back where that big sinkhole is that I think Ryan covered in one of his videos here a while back. The sinkhole that, if I recall in my raking video, I mentioned I was avoiding it. I got back to that field, and I got everything below that sinkhole down to the grass waterway done, but everything above that, when I was going through trying to work it up, the ground was starting to get hard. It was starting to, the chisel plow was starting to make a little bit more noise. It was starting to pop, and the shanks and shovels were bringing up a little bit more frost. So evidently the ground, of course, it was up, where the wind was hitting it more throughout the day prior, that I could definitely tell the ground was just a little bit harder. And I did end up calling it quits about 4 in the morning. And if I could have kept going and at least gotten at least my place done, I'd been all for it. Because this is all corn on corn ground, and I really would have liked to have it chisel plowed going into next spring. Just because you don't get it chiseled doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to have a huge impact on your yield. There's a potential, there's a possibility. Depends on the weather. Um, if we have a late spring like last year, we had 4 inches of snow on the ground in our last snow event last year, a week before we were planting corn. So I mean, going into next year, we really don't want a situation like that, from the simple fact that we're going to have about 2 weeks of tillage and hydrous included to get done with seedbed prep. I don't think we'll be doing getting everything chisel plowed next spring, depending on the weather situations. You got to have a plan going into next year or even this fall, as far as what you're going to try to get done, as far as tillage and what needs to get done, what you can let slide. And that really was why I stuck down at my place, because it's corn on corn, and we generally like to see it work down. There's the no-till argument. We can sit and argue no-till until we're blue in the face, and you're not going to change my opinion at all. We have no-till ground, and I kid you not, guys, in our no-till ground, we had bigger ditches, bigger washouts in our no-till ground than we did in our conventional till. Sounds weird, doesn't make a lot of sense to most people, I get that, but that is exactly what we were dealing with. And my opinion is that no-till, the ground does get harder than conventional till. Everybody says that if you go longer without working the ground up, that the ground naturally loosens up and it'll absorb more moisture and the rain won't run off. I have not seen that myself. Maybe it's a case by case, farm by farm, state by state. It's just the way it is. I don't believe in no-till. I really don't. I like going through, working the ground up, getting the air down into the soil, and our yields show that it works. My no-till ground ran 27 bushels less than my conventional till ground, and the only difference between each field that they were planted, seed varieties were chosen accordingly, and there's that sinkhole right there to the right. Yeah, I just shut the camera off. I was just driving up on it when I shut the camera off there. The only difference between my yields between my fields that had conventional till or no-till ground was the fact that one had not been worked at all, not chiseled, not disked, not anything. We just literally went in and planted it. And this field has been no-till for 3 years, and it was 27 bushels less than my conventional till ground, and it was miserable to harvest because it was all washed out. We had ditches through it, so we were having to drive really careful with the combine so we weren't dropping the combine in a ditch. That's just my opinion on it. It's not just us. It's all around this area. I had a guy that was commenting here, well, it was a little while back now, about going no-till. Yeah, I get it, but no-till was a fad in this area. Even the guys that do try to do reduced tillage, they do still do a type of tillage in one way, shape, or form. I don't know anybody that is true 100% no-till in this area. Maybe I don't get out enough. Okay, fine, fair enough. But from what I'm seeing in my day-to-day life, even the guys that do reduce tillage, they still have tillage tools, chisels, VTs, discs, whatever you want to call them, speed discs. Depends on what they have. They still have them sitting in the shed. It's a backup plan. That no-till ground of mine, honestly, it needs to be worked up. It needs to be disked. It needs the ditches smoothed out and leveled up. And as far as the waterways go, the waterways on this farm, even where this video is taken, I got a grass waterway down in the bottom, that was always grass. It would, I mean, it's never been worked up. I mean, it's a legitimate grass water day to reduce runoff. It washed out our waterway for how much rain we got. We had um, one day this fall. We had one day, and I did that video where I was standing on that spillway at the main farm. On the day of that video that I filmed that, we had 3 major weather events, just rain, no hail, no wind, nothing like that, where we had water flooding down all of our waterways, all of our ditches, all of our creeks, everything flooded 3 times that day. And I don't know what you're supposed to do to prevent that from damages happening when you get that much water. My ground up across from the home farm, I left 24 rows. Let's just say I left an acre standing in the field because there's still 6 inches of water sitting in the rows that far up from the waterway. It was 24 rows up. Ryan went through and he VT'd down as far as he could, and he was making ruts in the field. So as far as that field goes, it's happened once in the past. Dad has told me where there was water halfway up the field from the waterway because there's that much water in the soil that it just has nowhere to go. And that's exactly what this fall was for us. We were dry going into harvest, where if we didn't get all that excess rain, we would have been turning and burning, and we would have been done with harvest. Everybody in the area would have been done with harvest probably about the first week of November, and we would have had all of our tillage done, and we would have been probably had everything cleaned up and put away probably a week before Thanksgiving. And it's going into the first of the year, or first of the December, I mean, and there's still some corn standing like randomly around the area. The last field of soybeans that I saw standing got harvested a little while ago, and everybody's getting their crops out, and luckily everybody's able to get their crops out. I know out on the East Coast, was it Pennsylvania, New York, that it just sounds completely and utterly terrible out there. Yeah, I feel sorry for you guys, but at least us, it's an unconventional. Well, it's probably the second year in a row actually where we've had issues like this, because last year we were late in the fall too. I'm ready for an early fall myself, but we had that tar spot that hit us late in the summer, and that was, well, I think that was part of the reason why I was able to go through and chisel some of these standing stalks like I could, because typically in the past when the stalks are still healthy and green yet, I can't chisel standing stalks. And I'm wondering if that, as odd as it sounds, that might have been the only thing that was able to let me get as much chiseled tonight as I was able to, was because that tar spot came through and weakened all the stalks. Not exactly something to be excited about, but hey, at least I gotta get 7 hours of chiseling done. And this is probably the only last, I shouldn't say that for sure, but chiseling video I'm gonna be able to get up for you guys, because the ground is froze hard. It got down to the teens the last 2 days, and there's snow on the ground. It was snowing last night when I came home, and it's really to the point where we're just gonna put everything away, clean it up, put it away for the year, and hope for the best next spring. I mean, I'm not going to write off next year's crop just because we can't get fall tillage done, but it is a convenience thing, being able to have tillage done in the fall when you have the time to do it, because when spring comes around, the first thing that's on everybody's mind is, when can we start planting? I mean, that's the first thing I think of. So at least now that harvest is done and we can do as much tillage as we can, the biggest thing we're worrying about is, when's the ground going to freeze? And as this video is going on, that's exactly what was happening. The ground was freezing the later I went in the night. That's why I ended up working all night. So, alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I know there wasn't much to it, but Ryan was busy too, so I don't know how much he really was able to get as far as filming or whatever else. So, until next time, take care, take it easy, keep in touch. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.